Hello again, everybody, and welcome to a thrill-packed edition of the Jim Cornette Experience. Boy, we're feeling pissy today, piss and vinegar, because we're going to talk about pissing off decks, pissing people off, and taking the piss out of assholes is today's theme on the program. And to join me, broadcasting from Last Manor, he is Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you, the proprietor of the French Toast Chateau. I don't know what young lady he's romancing at the post office now. He's Swammy's pappy, your friend and mine, the great Brian Last.
Aloha, Jim. Hey, pleasure to be here once again, I would like to say, but we're going back to this pissing off the deck stuff?
Well, that was a big thing last week because you are upset. See, this is where you are you're a vain individual. You are a vain individual, Brian Last. You are upset because you were proven wrong, baby. You were proven that you did not know what you were speaking of. And people proved you wrong in a productive way when you didn't realize that just because it doesn't happen up there in the Northeast where they have no cultural traditions, and in your enclave there in the rich part of New Jersey where it don't smell like fucking Jimmy Hoffa's asshole, you didn't have a tradition of christening a new home, a new house, a new apartment, whatever, by pissing off the deck. You didn't have that, but you didn't realize that the vast majority of us that live across the country in normal locations that have fine traditions like christening a home by pissing off the deck, they flocked to Twitter is what they did. They emerged from the woodwork to castigate you. Thankfully, it was not another cast word that would rhyme with that. If they had castrated you, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but they castigated you, young man, for not knowing about this fine American tradition.
I saw many people say I'm from the North. I've never heard of this, but I did see one interesting one, and I'd like you to comment on this. If you're christening the deck, shouldn't you be pissing onto the deck?
No, because then you'd be pissing on where you're sitting. And you never shit where you eat. You never piss. You never tug on Superman's cape. You never piss into the wind. You don't shit where you eat. You don't piss on your own deck. You piss on somebody else's deck.
Oh, do you now?
Well, in some, I have a couple of, we're not even going to talk about that right now, but yes, there was a lot of feedback on pissing off the deck, and we're glad to accept that feedback there from the Cult of Cornette members to try to set you straight, Brian Last, on things that were going on. And I've got a note here. This just came off the teletype. You know the fine artist that does our thumbnails, Travis Bickle.
Well, Travis Heckel, yes.
Well, whatever. He does the thumbnails. He does the artwork for the experience and the drive-through and the YouTube channels and things and such where you can see us and hear us. And his son Aiden is on a softball team, the Pitt Bearcats, and they are currently, well, as we speak now, I don't know when you're listening to this, so this could be completely old news at this point, but they're at the state softball tournament down in Bowling Green for the Kentucky Special Olympics, and we hope that they just kick the bejesus and just take their opponents, slap them naked, and hide their clothes is what we're hoping that these young men do.
Well, let's not tell them to do that. They are young men and impressionable minds. Do not do that, but good luck with the game.
All right, don't slap them naked. Well, slap them naked, but don't hide their clothes.
No, I don't think they should do any of these things, no.
Well, I'm just trying to help.
Slap them naked. This would be the biggest controversy of all time.
You've never heard that? I'll slap you naked and hide your clothes, you stupid son of a bitch.
No? That's another new one. There's a whole bunch of new ones you're introducing to me lately.
I've only had time, as Thunderbolt Patterson said on Georgia Championship Wrestling. Here's a segue. When we're talking about Thunderbolt Patterson on Georgia Championship Wrestling, I had another one of those pesky TV crews here today at the castle. That's why we're recording late. That's why that this program, by the way, and regardless of whether you can get it or not, we're putting it out at noon on Thursday. I'm putting the pressure on you here. It's got to be out by noon because at 11 a.m. on Thursday, September 12th of 2019, the National Wrestling Alliance, the oldest and largest governing body of professional wrestling anywhere in the universe, has announced that, the big studio show, they are returning wrestling to the TV studio. It's roots, stripping it down, sort of like MTV Unplugged. You get the artists without all the smoke and mirrors. It's just the camera and the studio and the talent. They're bringing studio wrestling back September 30th and October 1st in Atlanta at the Georgia Public Broadcasting Studios. I will be the color commentator. This is what's been announced this morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you're thrilled, Brian. I can just hear you now, just breathing with anticipation.
So not play-by-play, color commentator.
Well, I don't know. I'm not. Boy, that sounded bad.
That wasn't committed. No.
Well, no, I don't really consider myself the play-by-play announcer when I'm guesting. I don't know that this is going to be a permanent gig. As I said, remember about a month or 6 weeks ago, and I said I was slowing down, taking time off, looking forward to walking the puppy. Then, of course, the Blitzkrieg hit at Cornette's Collectibles, and I'm almost more on that. An update on that's coming up. I'm almost dug out of that, and in a couple of weeks, I'm going back out. But this will be my only personal appearance for the rest of the year because I've got a soft spot. I started thinking about this. I want to put you on the spot. Who has done that's still active in the wrestling industry in some fashion, not necessarily in the ring, but anywhere that's still active on a mainstream basis that has done more studio wrestling taping than I have?
Les Thatcher.
All right, goddammit.
Ron Ford.
I was going to say the Rock and Roll Express, but you got me there too. But we're a very select group. So I wanted to be there for this. Is going to be the first.
Ole Anderson.
Ole is not still actively involved in wrestling.
Did you say actively involved or just anyone alive?
Yes, I said actively involved.
Okay. I take Ole back. I apologize.
But Les is out there active, so I'm giving you that one. But anyway, I had to be there for the first one, the first studio wrestling, mainstream studio wrestling tapings in 30 years. And also in the scene of some of its greatest triumphs, Atlanta, Georgia, and it has a tradition going back to the 50s with Live Atlanta Wrestling. So anyway, I'll be there, and I'm not even trying to sell tickets at this point because it's a studio show. There's like 100 people a night. They have some VIPs for the second day that they are releasing with this announcement. But if you don't hurry, they're going to be gone. So, but you'll be able to watch at a future to be determined location. But if you want to be there live, your chance is rapidly dwindling.
Have you thought about, since this is the NWA and they're bringing you back, going to them and saying, I can't wait to do this. However, there is a shortage that Jim Crockett Jr. still owes me from that contract we signed in '88. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that.
No, but because I did sign with good old Jimmy Crockett. I did sign a release on the payment that we did accept.
Okay.
Yeah. I got something. I just didn't get everything, but that's long since been held harmless, as they say. And we're going to have a legal update here later on in the program also from our legal beagle, Stephen P. New, has been on the case. Anyway, so yes, I'm doing the commentary. Is there really, in studio wrestling, there's usually two guys. Is there a play-by-play and a color? I remember a lot of times Lance used to let Dave Brown handle a match while he'd go back and see what fucking segment 5 was going to be because they didn't know yet. And that's the thing about studio wrestling. I can't wait to see guys either sink or swim in an environment where you don't have the stage, you don't have the giant screen, you don't have pyro, you don't have bells and whistles, you don't have 10,000 people in an arena that are going to be easily manipulated by the atmosphere. You basically have enough people to make some noise because you're having a contest or you're giving a promo, and it's you and the camera and the viewer at home. And that's why there was, in the old studio days, there were a lot of great interviews and there were a lot of shitty interviews because it separated both of those aspects very well, and matches as well. So I'm going to be interested to see who soars with the Eagles and who scratches with the chickens. Anyway, so I'm doing that. And we've talked about pissing off the deck. I've got to mention the behind the curtain update. Our long national nightmare is almost over, as I mentioned on the drive-through. I did have, believe it or not, flag on the play. I lost a half a day because of bad Sharpies. I've bought just about the city of Louisville, Kentucky out of gold Sharpies because we mentioned the Sharpie, the way I was doing everything, signing and numbering the books on a program here a week or two ago. And gold Sharpies are not as easy to find. So I went to the Office Supply, cleaned them out, then Walmart, blah, blah, blah. Then we ordered some online, but Amazon, who knows where I live, they're here a lot. It took a week, and then they said, oh, we lost them in the mail. So they never got here. Then we went to another Office Supply place. So finally, the Office Supply place that only had 6 said, we'll send them to you online. You go online and buy them, and we'll ship them to you, right? 2 days. 2 boxes, 24 Sharpies. Piss porous, dry ass, shriveled up, looked like it'd been under the heat lamp at Arby's. They wouldn't write properly. And I was not going to send out substandard stuff. So I waited until we could restock on proper Sharpies. That was a delay. But at any rate, with what is in people's hands, what is in the mail, and what is wrapped up and ready to go on Friday morning, there are less than 50 domestic books left to be sent out. We're going to knock that out over the weekend. Also over the weekend, so for Monday, if you have ordered domestically anything else besides a book from Cornette's Collectibles in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you either have it or it's going to be out by Monday. And as far, including the custom-made Mid-Atlantic film sets that a few people have been waiting on because we need 30 hours in the day. And the international orders, we already have a plan. Those are going to be shipping next week, as I mentioned, twice per day on most days, because I'm going to go in the morning and then come back and do more while Stacy goes in the afternoon because the customs forum situation. And we're even going to be shipping on my birthday, which is, for those who are intending to send me money or gifts, Tuesday, September 17th. I baffle science. I will be 58 years old. Hurrah for me.
I understand gifts. Do a lot of listeners send you money?
It can, as a matter of fact, a fine young man whose name escapes me because I'm going to send him a thank you, but I don't have it in front of me, just sent me 2 Wendy's gift cards.
2?
Well, they're $15 a piece. So 2 meals, basically, for me.
What are you going to get? What's your meal?
Oh, for God. So what is this, fucking Bruce's show? I've got to give my burger order now to you? No.
Is your burger order the same as it's always been?
Well, see, he got my burger order from Wendy's. See, you have a different burger order depending on what burger place you're at. If you're at Wendy's, triple cheese, extra cheese, mayo, pickle, onion only. That's the correct one because that's the perfect Wendy's combination. However, a few years ago when they switched their pickles and now they taste like the crotch of Oprah Winfrey's pantyhose, I eliminate the pickle because they changed them from dill to whatever the fuck these things have. I thought the meat was spoiled at one point. But now, for example, if you go to Dairy Queen, you don't want mayonnaise, or McDonald's for that matter, you don't want mayonnaise, but you do on it's a whole different fucking balance. And then if you're talking about a smaller, more boutique burger place, you're going to go for a fried egg, or you're going to make sure to get grilled onions or whatever. But it just depends.
I just had Jack in the Box for the first time.
For the first time?
They don't really have them here in the Northeast. They used to be one in Long Beach when I was a kid, but they closed like in 1986.
You're a grown adult man, though. You travel the country sometimes.
I don't usually go to fast food joints. I decided to try it the other day, and it was pretty good, I have to say. Very impressed.
Well, there you go. Just order into the clown's mouth. Anyway, so yes, the Cornette's Collectibles customers, and we're restocking everything again. Before we announce our next new product for the holidays in October, because I'm going to leave myself at least a week or two after I've caught up with everything to breathe. So that's what's going on with the with the orders for Behind the Curtain and elsewhere. And also somebody's got a problem with you, pal.
With me?
With you. I mentioned this to you, but I'm going to bring it up. I'm not going to go into full details, but it was Sunday on the drive-thru. And if you don't listen to the drive-thru and you're listening to this show, I don't know what the fuck's wrong with you. Yeah. You're not right in the head. But on the drive-thru on Sunday, you brought up the topic of Ric Flair suing the WWE for royalties for the man shirts and paraphernalia that Becky Lynch has been selling, because obviously to be the man, you got to beat the man. And Ric Flair has been the man. And we discussed the positives and negatives of that case.
Correct.
Yeah, and you were more negative than I was very positive, but you once again, you were negative. You were a negative individual, Brian. Last I was positive, just like when they brought the Sheik in when they first started the drug testing. They brought in the Iron Sheik to the office in Stamford. And they said, Sheik, your drug test came back and it's positive. And he said, oh, yes, I know, Sheik, always positive. Yes, thank you. Very good. Sheik, no, Sheik, you don't understand. Your drug test was positive. Yes, Sheik, a positive. Very good. No, positive is bad. What? How can positive be bad? In this case, your negativity was bad. I said that they ought to pay Rick. Number one, I said he has been the man for 30 or 40 years. Number two, I said that obviously he had told the story that he called up to ask about it, and one of these hatchet-headed corporate attorneys, the same type of individuals that have pissed me off on numerous occasions that are affiliated with that company that don't know how to talk to wrestlers or treat them with the proper respect, these little pea-brained corporate types and these bean counters, they had pissed Rick off and he felt disrespected and he decided, I'll just get my money through the legal means. And I've said that I identified with that also. But you, however, took a more negative view of the whole thing.
Right. I took more of an approach of, that's not the way things usually work in reality. and I'm going to stick with that one.
You won't even go any further. You just stick with that one.
I'm just going to stick with that, yeah.
All right. And I said that probably what's going to happen is Triple H is going to make a phone call and smarten somebody up in that office, and Ric Flair is going to get a check of some description, and everybody's going to be happy and go on. That's what they do in the old days, in the old promotion days. You got your top guy, got a little problem, got to say, here, let's grease the fucking wheels of this. This is just on a bigger basis. But anyway, I'm not going to say how I know that. I got a little phone call. I'm not going to say any more than that, but I got a little phone call, and from what I understand...
So you are going to say how you know it?
No, I just got a little phone call. I didn't say from who or when.
I'm not going to say how, but I got a little phone call.
I got a little phone call. And Ric Flair is looking for your phone number. Ric Flair was not happy. He was happy that I was defending his intellectual property. Respect his property. He was, but at the same time, he's looking for your phone number, pal. Well, I believe he said something about asshole. I don't know.
Well, listen, I'm a busy guy, so you can get my phone number, but Ric Flair has like almost zero chance of being able to actually get me on the phone. And that's that. Listen, anybody could be the man. Not anybody could be great.
Well, to be the man, you got to duck the man, is what you're saying.
What am I going to do? Call him up and have him yell at me and I have to yell back at him? I can yell a lot louder than him. That's what it's going to become.
You'll sit there and take your ass chewing in a suitably chastened manner, young sir.
I don't take it from anybody.
Yeah,
I give it pretty good.
You don't take it, but you give it pretty okay, Costanza.
How many weeks in a row have we done a Seinfeld reference on this show? Travis is running out of art he could do with Seinfeld characters.
Well, I tell you what, and Travis, just get back from the state softball tournament after Aiden and the Bearcats win and do us some art that revolves around Ric Flair snatching Brian by the goozle pipe. Anyway, does Travis even know what you look like?
What is that, fantasy art?
Does Travis know what you look like?
Of course he does. I actually, whenever Travis does the artwork for 605, I'm so anal about things being accurate and correct, I will send him the most current, updated photo of myself so that when he draws me, it is actually accurate. And I'll have him go in and make changes to my hair or the direction of my sunglasses. I mean, it's insane. The bathing suit I'm wearing, whatever it may be. It will be accurate. Whatever image you see of me is accurate to that moment that show comes out.
So you look like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon character, is what you're saying.
Pretty much.
An accurate. Okay, yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh my God, you're so vain. You probably think this fucking song is about you.
Name a wrestler who used "You're So Vain" as their theme music.
Al Snow.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Al Snow, but it was not Carly Simon. It was Faster Pussycat in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. You're So Vain. He was the world's greatest wrestler.
Name someone who used Carly Simon. You're So Vain.
Oh my God. Who? I don't know.
I only know this because I saw the clip the other day. Someone, it may have been Richard Land or Alan Blackstock, someone tweeted this or retweeted it. Adrian Adonis, when he became the adorable Adrian Adonis, came out to the ring to You're So Vain by Carly Simon.
I think I would have gone with the phone ringing is what I would have gone with, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I don't have a fucking clue who this might be.
Maybe it's Flair.
I have no idea. I don't know whether to cuss them out or not. They might be going to pay me some money. Everybody else is. Oh, well, anyway, we'll leave that go. So let me tell you something about the weather in Louisville, Kentucky, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know that day before yesterday, as this program goes up, it was not only the hottest day in Louisville, Kentucky on any date since July of 2012, but it was the hottest September 10th in 120 years.
Wow. It was like 90 degrees here today.
It was 99 degrees.
Oh my God.
Yes. And it's forecast. It hasn't rained. It was the wettest year on record last year. Then the first 6 months this year, we were ahead of that. We couldn't stop the rain. And then suddenly last month, it just decided it's going to be 95 degrees every day and it's not going to rain. And it hasn't rained. And for the next week, upper 90s and no rain. And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, just so that you're aware of this, can you imagine? I would have not only looked like, but I would have felt like the creature from the Black Lagoon in this heat wave here that we've had, if not for our friends at Manscaped. And no, think about this. It's not even a point now where you always want to be groomed well for your significant other and for anybody else that may wander by those premises. You don't want to be caught unscaped. You don't want to be stinky. You don't want that fungus that some of us have when the hair grows so long on your back and it grows so long on your front that it meets down there in the intersection of the taint. Oh. And it's shaggy everywhere and you get fungus and cheese smell. You don't want that to happen.
No.
Whether once again, if you don't have a significant other, one of these days, just by fucking odds, if nothing else, you're going to run into a situation where you wished that your nether regions smelled and looked better on the sperm of the moment, as they say. And with Manscaped, you can always be assured because they got you taken care of. In that heat and the humidity, once again, I would look like a swamp monster. I would have been drenched. I would have been drippy. I've been soaking through my clothing. But instead, I was as smooth as a baby's bottom. I was as slick as a peeled hard-boiled egg, and I was as comfy as a cow. I would say happy as a pig and shit, but that wouldn't give you a good visual to sell the product. But because Manscaped is taking care of me, and so many, you've seen it on Twitter, on our Twitter account. You've seen from Cult of Cornette members, the testimonials pour in. Keep all those places that can have problems. Keep them clean, keep them safe, keep them healthy, keep them smelling good. You never know when you're going to need those places, folks. And I mean, it could be just even your chest. Just even your chest or your back, if you got one of those skunk strips down your back. Not only the entire package, but specifically the Lawnmower 2.0, the trimmer with skin-safe technology. It won't nick. It won't snag you. You won't be bleeding, getting juice all over the place like one of these hardcore garbage wrestlers. You're gonna not only be comfortable, but you're going to have confidence that you're not going to cut yourself. It's almost impossible. I've tried. It won't work. And the Lawnmower 2.0, and it has that nice purr when you turn it on. I don't have it within reach now, actually, because it's always in my bag, the little carry bag that also holds the crop mop ball wipes, that also holds the cologne, that also holds the pH balanced sauces and potions and things and such that can make even the most problem crotch smell like a New Orleans whorehouse, ladies and gentlemen. So please, not only can you do your balls a favor, you don't have to use the same razor. I'm not even talking the plow razor with the interchangeable razor blades is for the most desperate among us, ladies and gentlemen, but it works too. And waterproof this stuff. You can use it in the shower. And of course there's the washes and potions as well, but do something nice for your balls, because every great once in a while they do something nice for you. And you can get, wait a minute. As a matter of fact, that's one of the balls calling now. Hold on one second. Okay. Hello, Manscaped. Do your balls need trimmed? Well, yes, we can. As a matter of fact, we can fill that order for the Lawnmower 2.0 with skin-safe technology that won't nick or snag your nuts, and we can also get you a plow. And if you use the code JCE at manscaped.com, you can get 20% off and free shipping. I'm telling you, your crotch and nether regions are never going to be this slick, smell this good, or be this happy. You'll be doing a happy dance down Broadway with Manscaped. Hello?
Yeah,
Hello?
Who are you talking to?
Hello?
Jim, did they hang up on you?
They must have. They're going to miss out on all the big deals at Manscaped.
Their loss.
Yep, 20% off. 20% off, free shipping, and a free travel bag, by the way, to hold all these great items in at manscaped.com.
Is that Flair on the phone again? Because you know what they say. You know what they say.
Hey, no, what do you mean again? I never said it was. I never
You know what
said
they say? No hair, no Flair.
Oh my God, I've heard him say that on numerous occasions.
I'm sure you have.
With Buddy Landell, it was if it don't snow, we can't go. And with Flair, if it was Flair, it was no hair, no Flair. Anyway, speaking of, how about let's segue to no fans. No, I'm kidding. I'm not trying to blister All Elite Wrestling this week. We got other people to blister, but real quickly, because last week I didn't want to leave a thread dangling. As we mentioned, I DVR'd the pay-per-view, but when I started watching it the same time of night, basically as it came on live, right? Just a different day. And by the time that we got through all the marathon bump fests and etc., and I was able to zip through that ladder match where every 5 minutes they were running over each other with goddamn 18-wheelers or whatever. And the world title match between Chris Jericho and Adam Page was in the ring and being introduced, and I start watching, and I went to fucking sleep, which is, I'm sure, probably like a lot of people in the live crowd that night, because once again, everybody had talked about how, well, they should have put the ladder match on last because the world title match could, well, no shit. Two guys having a legitimate wrestling match are not going to be able to follow four guys falling off everything in the building over and over, even if there is no story and no reason to it, and it's just a fucking contrived stunt show. What you've done is you've immuned your crowd to all the bumps and all the chaos, and then you put your money match in the ring that's going to depend on whether you draw big ratings or big pay-per-view numbers or to sell tickets or whatever on a mainstream long-term basis, and the people live don't like it because everybody's not falling through furniture, and the people on pay-per-view have gone to sleep because it's 4 hours in. What the fuck? There's the simple solution to what match to put on last and what should follow what would be put the world title match on the last and tell the spot monkeys, as they like to use that term. I guess that's another one of these wrestling terms that have been made up over the last 10 or 15 years. Tell them don't do so much stupid shit. That's why nobody ever did stupid shit like that over and over in front of people before, because you get immune to it. And that would be the destruction of everybody in the wrestling business. Imagine that. And all it does is make your money matches, the shit that people can take seriously and have emotion for, rather than just going, oh, he's dead, over and over. Anyway, it was a great fucking match, I thought. The difference in it and most things on the card you could see because it made sense. It was two guys fighting for something. You had a heel that was in control, but you had the babyface that would not quit. There was a good use of blood. Like I said, Jericho was in charge, but Adam Page held up his end in a big building on pay-per-view. He's still a young man. The referee, young Aubrey, what's her name?
Aubrey Sinclair, was that it? Or no, it's not
Not Sinclair. That's Todd
Aubrey
Sinclair.
Aubrey Edwards.
Aubrey Edwards. My God, Aubrey has married Todd Sinclair. Now they're a refereeing family. No, Aubrey Edwards was great. She had more fucking backbone and officialness than most referees I see these days. I love the buckshot lariat because it's a flip that makes sense and looks good. A guy that size being that nimble to sling himself over the top rope like that, land on his feet, and get that extra momentum to clothesline a motherfucker so his kids are born dizzy, I can buy that flip. They did it's been so long now, it's been a week sleep deprivation and book signing since I've watched it, so I don't remember all the specific spots, but it was a good pro wrestling match, a money match that you want people having in defense of your world championship. It wasn't the goddamn, second coming of Flair and Steamboat, but it was a main event pro wrestling match. And it's another example of reasons not to do stupidity like the car wreck in the previous match, or just the goofy gimmicks with the guys with the hands in their pockets or whatever, because you have conditioned not only the people viewing pay-per-view, but also the people watching in the arena that, remember, there's still a lot of silliness to this, and we shouldn't take everything seriously, and then the guys you're supposed to take seriously have to get in the ring and follow that. And this is not revolutionary. Vince McMahon Sr. thought this way, as well as Vince McMahon Jr., as well as Sam Muchnick. Your main event draws your money. The rest of your card makes them or keeps them as fans of wrestling, and it entertains them and gives them a value for their money. Now, Eddie Graham started doing the package shows, and Bill Watts followed that, and Dusty loved it too, where everything on the card meant something on the big shows, but there were still house shows in Columbia, South Carolina, where your main event and maybe your semifinal was what they came to see, and they got some nice matches. It didn't all have to be goddamn the biggest card ever signed. But even the package shows were created because the territories were weekly territories down south, and they needed more juice, and you needed more depth on the card with things that were angles that would draw money, rather than just the big cities. But you have to keep some type of logical, serious flavor if you're going to go for large numbers of people either watching on television or coming to arenas for an extended period of time, instead of a fad audience. And all of the stuff that they do on the undercard undermines the top of their roster and what their efforts are supposed to be. To me, just my opinion. What'd you think of that fine wrestling match?
I thought it was all right. I didn't watch it in a vacuum, and I didn't watch it where it was just that one match. Much like everyone else, I was burned out by that point in the night. On AEW, on that show, I just couldn't wait to move on.
4 hours and 20-something minutes, was it?
Yeah, so maybe it's a little unfair to watch it like that. I've spoken in the past my thoughts about Jericho in the ring currently. I think out of the ring, he's fantastic. I must admit, and maybe, time will change this, but I've only seen him a few times so far. I don't really get Adam Page yet. I don't really get why I should care about him yet.
You don't. Who is he? Is what you're saying?
I mean, that was a great promo.
Other than a young guy and the Stitches and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, other than the Stitches promo, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, in the ring, he had that long ass match with who was it at the previous show? Was it Sammy Guevara or was it someone else? I forget who it was even.
Oh God, yeah, that went on forever before he could beat him.
Yeah, he had that really long match at the previous one. Probably wasn't Sammy Guevara because he's really good. And then this one, I don't know. There's nothing that's been done so far to really get me so that I want to see an Adam Page match. Every Adam Page match I've seen has gone 20 minutes at least. So I'm kind of waiting to see what the hype is. I don't see it yet. I don't get it.
And I can see because I'm looking at him with my, glasses on of if I had him in OVW or if I had him in a territory, he's a puppy with big paws. Hangman Adam Page, I don't think anybody believes that he really has hung people for a living in whatever states that still takes place in, probably Texas, I guess. But he's a Southern boy. I remember him from Ring of Honor when he was like 20 years old. He cuts pretty good promo. He doesn't need to be. The Hangman, I guess, came from the Bullet Club in Japan or whatever, but maybe he needs a little bit of different look. Maybe he needs to be even more him, more real. I kind of similar thing, Tracy Smothers. when he had been gimmicked up as one of the Southern boys and then the Young Pistols in WCW, and the Young Pistols thing was fucking horrible. So the WCW, well, it's too Southern, so Dusty moved them to Wyoming, right? They were always worried about being too Southern, a company based in Atlanta. Anyway, when I brought him into Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I just did a profile on who he was, that he had gone to Carson Newman College and he had done this and he liked to go out on the boat, and we just shot him around town and out in the woods, and it was just Tracy and the way he talked and him being real. Maybe that's what they need to do, more with Page, and just tell his captivating story, but just let him be more legitimate as himself. I don't know.
Yeah, plus I just haven't seen yet. And again, like I said, I've only seen a limited amount of his stuff. I haven't seen yet that match where I just go, wow, what a fantastic match. This guy was incredible in there. I haven't seen that yet. So I'm waiting. I'm open to seeing what everyone else has been hyping up and what obviously All Elite thinks they really have in him, but I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting to see.
He's a guy that a lot of the guys like to work with, because you can tell he's so good and so smooth that a lot of the guys are like, oh yeah, he's fucking great. So naturally, in a company headed by the guys, he's going to get featured, but he has talent. I can see it. Mark it down in your little black book.
For a while, I was getting Adam Cole and Adam Page confused, I realized.
No, Adam Cole is fucking phenomenal. I've been a fan of Adam Cole's. He was 19 when he started Ring of Honor. Him and Kyle O'Reilly was like fucking 2 years older or whatever. But Adam from the start could do the promos. His work was impeccable. Even though he was smaller, he looked like an athlete. He had the long hair that was long enough, and that face, it looks like a rock star. And you could tell that he was going to get it. I mean, and at promo class, I'd be taking guys, well, not promo class, but promos when we were doing local promos, and I was trying to give a class. I'd be getting, 8-10 takes from guys that have been in the business 5 or 10 years. And Adam Cole, I'd say, here's your story. Tell it in your words, right? And first time, boom, nothing else to see here. That's a take. So I always knew he was going to be tremendous. I've been a big fan of his from the start. But anyway, this match, and once again, because I watched it alone without all that other stuff in front of it, so I wasn't in a particularly bad mood after seeing all that other stuff. But It's just, as another match we'll talk about when we talk about NXT, which we haven't even mentioned. We're going to talk about the NXT show here later on in the program. It stood out because it was so different, because it was what the business is supposed to be, wrapped around a lot of stuff that the business has become. So I liked it. But nobody's going to believe that, because nobody believes I like anything.
Did you hear him say how much he hates AEW? He said Adam Page isn't any good and that Chris Jericho sucks. That Cornette. Irrelevant.
Yes. All right. Well, speaking of something that's relevant, I hate people that cannot understand and hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Therefore, we need to make it easier, ladies and gentlemen, for you to hear the words, what are coming out of my mouth. And you know who can do that? Our fine friends at Raycon, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I know it's part of the cross that we have to bear here at the Cult of Cornette, at the Jim Cornette Experience, at the Castle Cornette, at Last Manor, that this program has gotten so popular, people are trying desperately to give us money to advertise on it, but we only bring you the products that we believe in. And we believe in these, and every single one of you knows I haven't wore a goddamn wireless earbud, but Stacy has, and Brian Last has, and they both like them. Yes. And everybody knows that since that time that I got hit by lightning, I've got a bad ear to begin with, so I would only be able to plug really one in, because it just doesn't work for me. I got that lopsided hearing, but
what?
I've told you about my lopsided hearing. That's why I don't wear earbuds like that. Because when I was talking to Nancy Caldwell, Whitey Caldwell's widow, in Knoxville at my home in Morristown, leading up to the Night of Legends, when we had a thunderstorm and lightning hit my house. And at the same time as it fried my television, a refrigerator, blew most of the light bulbs in my house, knocked the power out. It also, because the phone was one of those phone fax machines, it was plugged into the wall, and it sounded at the same time like somebody fired a pistol off beside my head and punched me in the jaw. The phone went flying, hit the wall, knocked me over on the couch. And when I realized what was going on some 5 or 10 minutes later, I was walking in circles around my darkened office with my fucking ears ringing.
Wow. You never told me this. No.
And since then, and for whatever reason, it's not even my phone ear, but it's the other ear, which has been made worse by the tinnitus because of the insistence of Impact Wrestling to blow off pyro like they were Raw, despite the fact we were shooting in a goddamn phone booth. I've got the tinnitus up, but the right ear is bad. So that's why I always turn my the left side of my head to you when I'm listening to you in a crowded, loud environment. Because I can't hear on the right side.
When you said, since I got hit by lightning and you just kept going, I said, oh, look at that. He made a little funny joke and he's just not even going to sell it. He's not going to put it over anything.
No, it's not a joke. I got hit by lightning.
Wow.
But anyway, these Raycon earbuds, but see, here's the thing, and everybody knows also, I don't know what the fuck, these are wireless earbuds. I've got headphones on now with wires on, and they're about 1.5 pounds on my head, and they feel like Kevin Von Erich himself has given me a claw on each side of my head, and has got wires to where I can't get more than 8 feet away from my apparatus here because I'm all wired down, but that's because I'm a technophobe, but I don't know how to work this stuff. But if you get these Raycon E50 wireless earbuds like you have had and like Stacy got the other night, she's just sitting there. She's not got any wires attached to her. For once, she's not even tied to anything. And she's just calmly sitting there, and I start talking to her, and she ignored me as usual. But then I realized that she wasn't just ignoring me on purpose. She was ignoring me because she couldn't hear me because she was listening to music through her telephone, all routed through the air and all that Wi-Fi that I got nothing to do with, that you can't see in the house, but it's there. And into her wireless earbuds from Raycon, the Raycon E50s. And I guess you can listen to all manner of things and such, as you were telling me. Can you not on these Raycon E50 wireless earbuds?
Anything. You could listen to, obviously, podcasts, videos, music. I think you could even answer your phone if it rings and you have these earbuds in your ear. They're great. I'm actually going to probably get a second pair because I really want those blue ones that look so cool.
Well, you can go, also we mentioned saving you money. You can go to buyraycon.com/JCE. And we're still up in the air on this. They told us they'd give you 15% off, but people have done this. Cult members have done this and gotten 20% off. So maybe it's just what side of the bed they wake up on, but 15 to 20% off. Raycon wireless earbuds, and they're not hundreds of dollars a piece like some of these fucking off-brand, knockoff, Bolin-like apparatuses you can find on the internet. These are quality for affordable prices. If you've been eyeing a pair, now's the time. Buyraycon.com/JCE.
I approve and I endorse these fine earbuds.
Well, you're the fucking one that Ric Flair's mad at anyway.
What?
So,
oh, come on.
I don't know if we need to associate in your social circle in case anything happens. For fuck's sake, you never know about these things. I'll tell you somebody's social circle I wouldn't want to be in. It's the creators of a very unflattering caricature of me, as well as trying to profit off my name and likeness. You saw this recently here, just within the past couple of days.
I did, and things have really happened quickly in the last couple of days. I guess that's all I could say right now.
Well, that's I can say some more because the reason why things happened quickly is because we have a barrister, a bulldog barrister, a legal beagle that will leave no meat on your bones, named Stephen P. New, who, when your rights are being thwarted and misappropriated and you're being downtrodden, you can go to him for legal remedy and recourse, and that's exactly what we did, because apparently I've mentioned here on the program, and now I'm finding out, I guess everybody wrestling listens to this show now, because they're quoting me chapter and verse, both pro and con. But I mentioned recently one of these fucking goofy deathmatch wrestler outlaw mud show fucks took a brain buster off the top of 2 ladders through fluorescent light tubes and was shocked to discover upon landing that he was sliced from asshole to appetite and was bleeding like a goddamn sieve. That would surprise me. And apparently they took him to the hospital, and I think he even said on the internet, he said, well, I blacked out once, but I'm okay now. And I mentioned how just completely stupid and ignorant these people are to do these things for no reason and no money. And everybody knows it's phony. You're not even creating an illusion. You're really sawing the girl in half with a fucking saw, and a real girl. You're just sawing her in half. There's no talent to it. Right. And then I found out that I may have misspoken. I said, this fucking idiot's running a fundraiser for himself. Actually, somebody else is running a fundraiser on his behalf, and I assume he's fine to accept the money. So, pick your poison. But a GoFundMe for this guy, the surgery that this guy needs to sew him back up from his asshole to his appetite. And he wants people to chip in and pay for it because of his years of entertaining the fans in his death matches. I believe was a quote from the fucking site. So I said on Twitter, and I reiterated here, there's no hungry children. There's no sick elderly people. There's no abused animals. There's no anybody that really, through no fault of their own, is in a shitty situation and deserves help. Instead of this fucking dumb shit that sliced himself up doing garbage wrestling matches. And yes, I'm talking to you. You fucking moron. I'm not going to mention your fucking names. I don't want to give you any more publicity, but it's the type of people that come to see you and support you that cause more of you to happen. And we need less of you in wrestling because it's fucking stupid. It's dangerous. It's distasteful. And you make everybody involved with the business look like a fucking moron. So we need a lot less of this shit. But anyway, I mentioned that there was nobody that apparently that was deserving of help, that people should give their money to this fucking shyster. So guess what happened next? They all got their panties in a wad, just like all the all elite wrestlers, the constant Jelly Janela, the blob of Smuckers that lands on the floor when you turn the fucking bread to an odd angle. Jelly Janela's he can't get over me. I encourage all the all elite wrestlers, anybody on this national television program and worldwide telecast pay-per-view that this billionaire is footing the bill for, please talk about me and refer to me as much as possible, and please stress over me all the time. But the hardcore, the deathmatch wrestlers are doing the same thing. They're either trying to leech on to me on the Twitter or just in anywhere in social media, because since people have heard of me, then even in some respect, much like the fucking 5-legged calf at the old circus freak shows, or the bearded lady, or the world's fattest man, it ain't a big compliment being, in the freak show, but at least when somebody can point attention to you, so they get the attention from me because people know who I am. But I got to admit, Brian, it was a tad off-putting when, lo and behold, did I get up just a day or two ago and see on the internet that they were actually selling this same deathmatch goof who sliced himself up like he'd been run through a razor blade factory for $50. What am I saying? $50. My God, if they took pity on him, $35 and a fucking hot dog. And it has a GoFundMe being set up for him because to rectify his stupidity, to bail himself out of his idiocy. But now a friend of his did this rather unflattering caricature of me for a shirt design, and they were selling that shirt with the unflattering caricature of all kinds of horrible things happening to me, and an epithet. An epithet is the best way to describe it. A profane word, and I just hate people that use so much fucking profanity. But a profane epithet being directed to me on that shirt. I'll go ahead. It said, "Fuck Jim Cornette." Can you imagine that? Now, I know probably all the female members of their families want to, because at least I don't have scars covering my entire body and fucking more metal sticking out of my fucking face than you can get by the metal detector at an airport, and all those tattoos obscuring my features, although obscuring a lot of these fucking deathmatch features, wrestlers' features, would be a positive. So I know all of the female members of their families above the age of 18 would like to fornicate Jim Cornette, but it's a vicious sentiment. But, even I can appreciate some good vindictiveness. However, I realized, and it was a very well done caricature, very artful, very real life. It looked just dead like me. If I had, like my eyes sewed shut and tape over my mouth and I was bleeding profusely, it did look very good. But I realized it was off-putting because this garbage deathmatch wrestler was going to somehow, at the end of this thing, make a couple of dollars off of my likeness and my actual name printed in huge letters right next to the caricature.
Fuck Jim Cornette, yeah.
While saying some very off-putting things. And so I said, well, it's not right because I didn't see anything saying, well, this is going to help hurricane victims, or this is going to help the, children in Somalia, or this is going to a good cause. It's just going to some fat fucking broke, out of shape, out of work fucking garbage deathmatch wrestler with fucking shit hanging out of his face and fucking tattoos all over it. I know I haven't narrowed this down very much, but I'm still not going to mention his name. I said, well, that's just not right. So fortunately, we have a legal beagle. We have the icon of interrogators. We have the baron of the barristers. We have the consigliere of the cult of Cornette. The man himself, Stephen P. New, on speed dial. And all I had to do was get a hold of him and say, Stephen, is this right? Should they be allowed to do such a thing? Last I heard, they were all running for the fucking border. Within a day, a great man once said this on television. We need to shut this shit down, ladies and gentlemen. And he's in the process of shutting all of them down. I don't know if they're going to be allowed to return to their own homes. But I do kind of like that idea. So stay tuned. I got to get out of the weeds at Cornette's Collectibles. But over the next couple of weeks, if there might be, 10, 12, 14 people out there that would share that sentiment, that would like that shirt. And I hate to deprive them of a shirt like that. But I think if the proceeds were going to, like we've raised money with the Midnight Express merchandise for American Cancer Society, or we've raised money with some of the shit-stain merchandise by going to the Crusade for Children. If some worthy cause was getting some money out of it, there might be some shirt like that I'm sure we could make sure that everybody gets what's coming to them. So keep an eye out on JimCornette.com, ladies and gentlemen. But as far as anybody connected with that outlaw shirt, just consider Jim Cornette, Jim Barnett, and consider Stephen P. New to be the fucking lawyer that shuts down all the outlaws. We always win the promotional wars. They didn't think they were going to get one over on me, did they?
They absolutely thought they were going to
They absolutely thought they were going to get something over. When they're amateurs. You're playing checkers and I'm playing chess, boys. I'll always be ahead because I'm smarter than you are. And you know it. Thanks, MJF. Anyway.
One of the problems with fuck Jim Cornette is it's not really chantable.
Yeah,
you can't chant that.
Right. Too many syllables.
Yeah.
Too many syllables. Fuck Jim Cornette. It's not
too much. Yeah.
Too much. But, and by the way, I want to thank everybody that mentioned that it was our anniversary this past week, September 10th, 1988, 31 years ago. The Midnight Express defeated Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson in Philadelphia for the NWA World Tag Team title. And I thought just for a second, I didn't bring this up with you before we went on the air because I forgot about it. But when you look at what Dusty was trying to do with the World Tag Team title from 85 through 88, it was really interesting because that was probably, I know Steamboat and Youngblood came earlier and the Anderson brothers came earlier, but that was really a high point in business for the NWA World Tag title, which had previously been defended in the Carolinas and Virginia, but now was pretty much the national championship of tag teams for the NWA in the opposition to the WWF. And, he started out, he went with the Russians as heels and made them dominant, whether it be Ivan and Nikita Koloff or Ivan Koloff and Crusher Khrushchev. They did the 3-man Freebird rule deal. But he made the belts mean something again after they'd had a year or so of it was kind of bounced around. And then he saw the opportunity with the Rock and Roll Express to make a babyface team. And as strong as he'd made the Russians, he brings the Rock and Roll in. First night on television, 1, 2, 3, they beat the Russians. And now they're he blew them over, as they used to say in the business. So now they're the champions because he knew that he had the Midnight Express on standby, that we were going to be in next. And that was going to be the angle he wanted to do. So for the rest of 85, the Rock and Roll finished up with the Russians, and he gave us different teams to get over. And then he pulled the trigger, and in February at the Superstars on the Superstation deal we talked about last week, we beat the Rock and Roll. And that was February 2nd, so until September. So pretty much 8 months, he built all the babyface teams up as having a chance to beat the Midnight Express for the title. The Rock and Roll, Dusty and Magnum, the Road Warriors, even Wahoo and Ronnie Garvin. He would always keep a variety of challengers, but when we, by hook or by crook, defended the title, got disqualified, kept the belts, fucked the right babyface the right time, whatever, it made us strong, but it put a lot of attention on the tag team title in general. And then finally, we gave the Rock and Roll their win back in August in Philadelphia. And then that's when I think the Rock and Roll, they had problems at one point with the Office, but that was where Bull and Rude came in, right? I think Dusty thought that the belts would help make a new tag team. He saw a lot in Rick Rude, and he'd always liked Manny Fernandez. So he put them together as the team. Was that 86 or was that 87? That was later on in 87, wasn't it?
They were the tag team champions, I believe, the end of 86, early 87.
That's right. It was the end of 87. Point is, he had Rock and Roll were doing good. Now he wants to make another heel team. You could never put the belts on the Road Warriors because obviously they didn't need the belts. They were like Andre. And also then the problem is how you're going to get them off. He wanted to make another heel team, and he took the gamble with Rude and Bull, and then both of them ended up leaving and taking the belts with them. So he Phantom switched it back to the Rock and Roll, and then decided, well, fuck it, let's go with the Horsemen. And that's where we did the deal where we attacked the Rock and Roll and hurt Ricky Morton right before their tag team title match with Tully and Arn. And that way, Ricky was hurt, and Robert had to work by himself. And then finally, Ricky comes out Spirit of 76. But they beat an injured, a compromised Rock and Roll Express.
Were you the U.S. Tag Team Champions at that time?
Well, that's what I was going to say. And something else that Dusty did for us, even when we couldn't be the World Tag Team Champions, because he did want to switch it around, he came up with the U.S. Tag title, had us go through the tournament. I think. Did Ronnie and Barry win the tournament and then we won it from them, or we won one or the other? Point is, when we won those belts, we kept them for a year until the Fantastics program came up. And then it was my suggestion that we drop them to the Fantastics to give them some credibility and then do a program with them. But Dusty had told me in the Midnight, guys, the belts are part of your ring outfits. They're like your robes. He just wanted us to have belts because he thought it looked good. And he thought it helped my promos. I could talk about us being champions because I did it well. So he created that more or less for us to be the permanent secondary tag team and have the good matches on the show, right? And so we had them for a year. Then we dropped them to the Fantastics. Then we got them back later on, had them for a while longer. And then that's, at the end of 88, we were still champions, U.S. champions, when the match came up with Tully and Arn. And they had done some things in the middle, in between 87 and 88. But the point was he had built that. There was a case to be made that Tully and Arn wouldn't have won the belts that first time if the Midnight hadn't jumped the Rock and Roll. And then later on the next summer, when he's finally ready to pull the trigger on it, he has two top teams that have drawn tremendous money over the past couple of years, have never had one match, have never had any conflict whatsoever because we were heels. We were supposed to be on the same side. And he knew that was a fresh money match. So that's when he started having us make the snide comments, me and JJ, on interviews. You know, I can say, well, we're the U.S. champions. We were the world champions, but we haven't had a title match in a long time. Hard to beat a team that you can't ever get a chance to wrestle. And he knew that the people would want to start calling for it before he actually booked it. And that's what happened. And for the month that we were together with Tully and Arn, not even a month every night, but just like the big shows like Greensboro, Charlotte, we did 13,000 people. The double main event was Midnight Tully and Arn and Flair and Luger. In Richmond, we sold out the Coliseum, did a $140,000 house, same double main event. So it was drawing money, but that's when obviously Turner Broadcasting was coming in. We've told the story. Tully had said some confidential things about what he thought about Dusty's booking to the Turner executives, who immediately turned around and told Dusty. Tully was banned off Crockett's plane. Everybody was pissed. And Tully and Arn got the deal to go to New York. So we found out on September 10th in Philly at the Civic Center about 7:30 for an 8 o'clock bell time that we were winning the World Tag title that night. And I remember what happened in between 87 and 88. Arn and Tully were the champions for the rest of 87, but that necessitated them going into Starrcade in Chicago against the Road Warriors. And I said, the Road Warriors were like Andre. They didn't need the belts, and how do you get them off of them? But he painted himself in a corner and convinced the people in Chicago that the big event was going to be where they won the tag team titles, and then did the second referee reverse decision, blah, 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 where the people thought they'd won it, but then they didn't win it, and it killed Chicago. We were on like 6 straight sellouts in a row at that point of 10,000 people plus. It didn't kill it. The WCW killed it a couple years later, but it hurt it badly. But he painted himself in a corner where he should have given them that result, but he didn't want to, and he couldn't figure out a way to get out of it. And then finally, Tully and Arn moved on with the belts. The Warriors never did get them. In hindsight, I'm going to second guess Dusty Rhodes' booking, right? I was like, oh boy, the people ain't going to like that. But in hindsight, I would have given it to them that night, and I would have had them go to early in the year, whether it be another pay-per-view event or a Clash of Champions or whatever, and drop them back to the Horsemen with some type of finish that Hawk and Animal and Paul would have accepted, probably involving incapacitating one of them and making the other one have to go it alone, something like what we did with the Road Warriors in 89 when we dropped the title back to them, or late 88, and then put the Road Warriors over at the Crockett Cup to placate them and beat Tully and Arn in the final match, but the belts wouldn't be on the line. That's just something. But anyway, so yes, finally pulled the trigger on the Tully and Arn thing with the Midnight Express. We're drawing nothing but money. I think one of our checks, we got paid every 2 weeks at that point, and for 10 dates, we had 4 days off in 2 weeks and still made $6,500 a piece, which is somewhere around fucking 16 or 17 grand today, and that was on payoffs, not even guaranteed. So it was going to be fantastic. I figured it'd last 6 months to a year, and it was done in 4 weeks. But we were the first team then ever to be world and U.S. tag team champions at the same time, because nobody had ever booked it that way, but it was another feather in our cap. And then that's when the next ill-advised Road Warriors fucking issue came, when they finally won the world tag team title, but it was after they tried to turn them heel and nobody wanted to boo them. So there you go.
You said how the Road Warriors never needed the belts, but sometimes in wrestling, a guy that doesn't need the belt still wants the belt. Did they understand that they didn't need the belts?
Yes, they didn't give a shit. Especially, hold on, a little bit of the bubbly, the Sprite Zero. They didn't care about the belts per se as during their hot run 85, 86, 87. When they said they're going to get the belts in 88, it was to help the heel turn, so they understood that part. But no, it was just you couldn't beat the Road Warriors, because if you beat the Road Warriors, technically the Road Warriors, something would have come off. You had to be real creative even to do what was done, right? They would lose some luster because they were the one after Andre got slammed and leg dropped, they were the one invincible thing in wrestling. But as far as whether the belts were involved or not, that wasn't a big deal to him.
All right.
But I'll tell you one thing, never bet against the Road Warriors, because you would have lost your money. Because the only time they ever did a job, by the way, I've told that story before, I won't tell it all again, but they insisted on putting us over in Memphis, Tennessee, their last week in the company. When they still wouldn't ask the Road Warriors to do a job that when they were finishing up and they were last week in the company, but they said, why the fuck should we beat you guys? You're all from Memphis. And so it was a gimmicked up finish, but we got a 1-2-3. The only team in the NWA to get a 1-2-3 over the Road Warriors that I recall, and it was a house show in Memphis. And then the next night, they were going to do it again, but the office heard about it and still wanted to beat us because of Jim Herd, but they refused to beat the Midnight Express, so Ellering jerked me in and pinned me.
If you want to see something ridiculous on the show I think it's the show with the last battle of Atlanta, there's a match, the Road Warriors versus Pez Whatley, and I think Jimmy Valiant. And you've never seen anything until you've seen Hawk and Animal bump all over the ring for Handsome Jimmy. Or excuse me, the Boogeyman, Jimmy Valiant. It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Well, and it's because that was 6 months into their wrestling careers and about 3 weeks into the Road Warriors, and then they got it shortly afterwards, and Paul helped them. And then more clothesliney, less bumpy. But anyway, never bet against the Road Warriors. But you know who you can bet on? You can bet on the fine folks at MyBookie. I had somebody tweet just this past week that they deposited $500 and got $1,000 to work with, to bet with, because they double your deposit, right? It double your first deposit. So they actually give you equal to whatever you put in there. And it's amazing. But now where are we standing? Because we've revealed over the past few weeks on the program that I have no idea how to work this online bullshit. I can't even order flowers online. So I left it up to you to make a bet on MyBookie because they've got this deal going on. It's the place to bet on football every weekend, better bonuses, more prop bets than any other sports book. They've got the first online handicapping super contest where first place is guaranteed to win at least $100,000, and it only costs $100 to enter. Just pick 5 NFL games against the spread every week to climb the leaderboard and score your share of the huge cash prize pool. I told you I don't know what any of that fucking means, and I don't know how to work this shit. So I'd put up the $100 because that sweet $100,000, in addition to all the other money I've been making lately, I'll be living next door to Kevin Von Erich out there in Maui.
Kauai,
wherever the case may be. Here's the problem. Last week, you admitted to me that you know how to work the website, but you don't have the first fucking clue how to bet on sports. And you were trying to figure out how to bet on the Mets, and somebody did tweet also, here's the easiest way to bet on the Mets, and it had like the gif of one of the little rascals just grabbing handfuls of fucking cash out of a basket and throwing it out the window. I guess that's how you bet on the Mets. But I digress.
Yeah,
anyway,
I saw that.
Yeah. Apparently you were very amused by it. I can hear the fucking hilarity and jocularity in your voice now. But anyway.
It was Spanky, by the way. It was Spanky from Allegheny.
It was Spanky. All right. You don't know how to bet. You read me some of that shit. Read me some shit from MyBookie, from the site. Because the point is, I want to know if you've upgraded your fucking knowledge in the last week.
At the game? Just got a gut feeling? No problem. Enjoy the convenience of at-home or on-the-go betting anywhere, anytime with the MyBookie mobile platform. Try it out today and never miss another winning bet. Learn more on mobile.
Okay.
On mobile betting.
On mobile betting. Okay, did you research it from last week and figure out how to place this bet of $100 so we can win our $100,000 and fuck off somewhere?
Yes and no. Let me start by saying, since last week's show, the Mets have had a really good run. Pete Alonso, 2 home runs the other day. He's going to win Rookie of the Year. I think he should have consideration for MVP. I think Jacob deGrom's online to possibly win another Cy Young. We are now 3 games out with 18 to play. So I wish I could have had an opportunity to bet on the Mets. The day I wanted to bet on them, they would have won. I hope that answered your question.
Well, wait a minute. What do you mean you wish you had an opportunity? That's like I started to say, well, you know good son, but I didn't. You had an opportunity with MyBookie. If you visit MyBookie online today, that's MYBOOKIE for those of you who can't spell MyBookie. And don't forget to use the promo code JCE when creating your account to claim that bonus where they double your first deposit. We've got MyBookie. That's promo code JCE. We've got MyBookie. You could have bet on the Mets, but you couldn't figure out what all the goddamn complicated language was because they were talking about playing against the spread to win the fucking fig and climb the fucking board to share the cash of the...
What's a prop bet? You mentioned a prop bet before. Do you know what that is?
I don't know. It says it right here in front of me. Better bonuses and more prop bets than any other sports book, period.
What the hell could that be? What's a prop bet?
I don't fucking know. You were supposed to find this shit out. I'm putting the money up. Do I got to do everything? I can pop the fucking corn, too.
Well, I have good news. I can't even describe how many people have gotten in touch on Facebook, on Twitter, and a few even via email to suggest who we should bet for or volunteer their services. Unfortunately, it was so overwhelming, I just did not have an opportunity to pick one. Well, yeah, it was way too much pressure to, like, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
That's the point. All these people are trying. All you got to do is MyBookie. All you got to do is work the MyBookie site and bet my $100 and we'll win $100,000. And all these people are trying to help you. You're not holding up your share of the fucking deal here, Brian.
Ooh, here are the odds for the Super Bowl. New England Patriots plus 275.
What the fuck? Wait a minute. What the fuck does that mean?
That means...
Have they got to score 275 points before they can win?
I think based on one of the tweets, if I put $100 on New England and they win... I get 275. However, if I put $100 on the Rams and they miraculously go all the way, I get $1,200.
Well, let's do that.
Bet on the Rams?
Yeah.
How do we do that?
I don't know. Go to MyBookie.
I'm on MyBookie. It says,
and use the promo code JCE.
Got a promo code JCE. Redeem code. Okay. Welcome back. They remember me.
Well, you haven't bet yet. How can they remember
Rams,
you?
Plus 120. It's in the bet slip. Set amount.
Well, wait a minute. Now they're going to win, right? Because I want to win the $1,200.
Well, I don't know. It says I could bet straight or I could bet part. Remember, this is the Super Bowl. We won't know until February or late January.
Oh, well, fuck. Well, I'm not going to tie my money up that long. Fuck that.
All right. I'll tell you what. By next week, I'll have a better idea and a better gauge on this. And I think next week will be ready to give you an update with some tangible results.
Wait a minute. Hold on here a second. How are we betting on the Super Bowl? Do they already know who's going to fucking play?
That's the whole point. You're betting on every single team and only two will get there.
No, goddamn, I thought we were betting on who was going to win between the Rams and the Zabadas. And if the Rams won, we'd win $1,200. And I want the Rams to win, so we'd win the $1,200. But if they're not even going to particularly play the game... Well, that's a whole horse of a different color.
It's like a 32-man tournament, and we're in the first round.
Well, you know what a match is where you get a bye from the first round to the second round of the tournament, don't you? A first-round fucking match. All right. What are you doing this week on your programs? And let's talk about NXT.
Another packed week on the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. A few notes here. Want to mention this week on John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight, Then and Now, a really cool historical look at the Great American Bash 1989. We listened to John's original broadcast as it was taking place, July 23rd, 1989. Here, John in his apartment calling in live updates where he clearly can't even see the television set and he's reporting things that aren't happening. And then he rushes to the studio to get the live reaction. One of the greatest pay-per-view events of all time. Hear what wrestling fans thought of it as it happened and right as it finished. At pwspod.com or available wherever it is that you find your favorite podcast. Also want to mention the Super Studcast at patreon.com/studcast. Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Over 90 minutes of the Barber and the Tennessee Stud sharing stories about Southeastern, Tampa, Hulk Hogan, parasailing, and so much more. This is a lot more fun than I really thought it was going to be. Check that out today, patreon.com.
Yeah, I thought it was going to suck, but it turned out all right, folks.
Patreon.com/studcast. Want to make mention, the Mid-South Wrestling Television Review, a very special episode this week. The 1982 Year in Review episode is reviewed. Usually it's me and Mike Mills for Booking the Territory, but considering we already reviewed every single thing that happened in 1982, special guests for this episode, John McAdam from Stick to Wrestling and the Professor from New Orleans, Ricardo Coleman, a New Orleans native, sharing their thoughts on 1982 in Mid-South Wrestling at midsouthpod.com or available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Superpodcast, the mothership. Is that the kid?
I'm sorry, I was watching a Young Bucks video.
All right. Well, of course, I want to thank everyone. The latest episode of Star Wars is now officially one of the most popular episodes of Star Wars we've ever done, and it is now on YouTube. Go to the official Arcadian Vanguard YouTube channel. You don't just get the 605 Super Podcast, you also get the classic Jim Cornette archive. You get episodes of the Studcast, Kentucky Fried Wrestling, and so much more. That is, of course, go to YouTube and search for Arcadian Vanguard, and it is there. And, of course, 605pod.com and available wherever you find your favorite podcast. Get caught up on the archive today because truly, episode 100 is being worked on as we speak.
I can testify to that.
You certainly can. You can
sign
an affidavit, in fact.
Yeah, well, we've already plugged Stephen P. News, so we don't need to do that right now. But anyway, so everybody said, well, you've given the business to All Elite Wrestling. Why don't you watch NXT? And so I did. And we are going to talk about it was the NXT UK TakeOver. What was all the names of the program?
NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff.
Yeah. We don't have to get the names all down to enjoy the show, but it could be less unwieldy than that. But anyway, I don't have a dog in this fight because there's nobody there that I'm particularly, over the moon about. As a person, I haven't met any of these people, nor is there anyone that I'm mad at. So these can be actually unvarnished thoughts concerning the NXT product. And I know you joined this with me. It isn't a shame that you and I both look at this like when we were kids in school and you knew you had to do your homework and you figure out how long it's going to take you at best case to do your homework and then wait till the last minute till you either have to go right to sleep afterwards and get up and go to school, or maybe even you get up early and you got just enough time or whatever. But that's the way we watch wrestling shows anymore, because especially when it's part business, it's just fuck. Was it that way for you too?
Yeah, unfortunately, and I think this is a casualty of not watching it when it actually aired. I think that would have changed it, but knowing it was on demand, knowing I could press play or stream it at any time, I put it off until the very last second right before we recorded.
Yes, and I did almost the same. I did the same thing, but my last second was a little earlier than yours was. But anyway, immediately what you see, this is not a surprise, the production of the show in terms of the cameras, the video, the audio, the directing, everything that goes into producing a television program is at a whole nother level, even a whole nother level from All Elite. And I know personally some of the people involved in the production there, and I'm not the production is one of the best things about All Elite Wrestling, but this is network shit. They've got a huge team. They're pros. Everybody at the WWE in its television department is a pro and knows exactly what they're doing, from the video work, the editing, the blah, 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 right? You can't touch them unless you're UFC, which is the real sports equivalent of the WWE. Is there any competition whatsoever?
No. Certainly I have issues with their production, especially on Raw and SmackDown, but nothing looks as good as what the WWE stuff looks like. And unfortunately, it seems like everyone tries to copy them, and I think someone should try to find a different way of doing it. But yeah, of course, it's the best stuff.
That quick zoom in and out shit, that's that Kevin Dunn shit that he wants people to do, or whatever. But I'm saying, as far as the actual crew and what they do, it looks like network television. But you're right. Instead of, they have a giant entranceway and a ramp and a giant screen, so we're going to also find another look that doesn't look like that you're spending a quarter of the amount of money that they are and doing it half as well, if that, right? Because there's no way that unless you're going to go ahead and spend this much money, and even Tony Khan is not going to do that, as much money as the WWE spends on television, and hiring the multitudes and hundreds of people that they have to work behind the scenes in these jobs regularly. This is not just, hey, we're getting all these freelance guys for a shoot. There's plenty of freelancers also. I asked when I was at WrestleMania a couple of years ago, the Hall of Fame thing, they had somewhere around 150 freelancers waiting to tear down the Hall of Fame setup and set up the set for the show the next day. And that's in addition to all of the crew people they have and the audio people and the video people and the technical people and the producers and et cetera that work there doing this nonstop. So, yeah, automatically you're at a different level. The announcers were Nigel McGuinness and a guy named Vic Joseph, who I have never seen before. And I wanted so badly to not like him because he looks like he's 22 years old and he looks like he walked away from a juvenile home just as he turned 21. But he grew on me all night. He's not bad at all. He sounded fine. And he and Nigel did a great job.
He sounded okay. And I have to say, I wasn't a big fan of Nigel at first as a commentator, but boy, is he good. And he may be, next to you, he may be the best guy in the business on color. He was fantastic, I thought.
Yes. Well, and he has been for a while. And I've told the story before, but for all the new listeners, in Ring of Honor, mine and Delirious's original choice to do the Sinclair era syndicated television was Kevin Kelly and Adam Pearce. And we alluded to it last week or whenever on one of the shows that the merchandise weasel had a grudge against Adam and sabotaged us, like with weeks to go before we were doing the first taping. We had no color guy and had no backup. And I think it was Delirious that floated the idea of Nigel McGuinness, but he was still at that point under contract to Impact Wrestling, and they had been going through a legal situation. He was trying to get out of the contract, get the release. Everybody remembers all that stuff. So we talked to him. We said, we want you to do this. He's like, I've never done it before. I can't do English accents. And either way, it doesn't matter. You're over with the Ring of Honor audience. We wanted an articulate ex-jock type to be the counterpoint to Kevin Kelly's straight play-by-play guy. And so anyway, with like 12 days to go, Nigel got his release and could officially, if taken 2 more weeks, we'd have had no color guy. I'd have been doing the color because that was Joe Koff's backup. That's when I first said, Joe, I can pop the corn too. But fuck, how many different things can I do? But anyway, I had told Joe, I said, the drawback is Nigel's never done this before. He's intelligent and he's articulate, but he's never done this particular thing broadcasting before. As we've seen, that can bite some people in the foot, Alex Marvez. But he will dedicate himself. He knows the product, the fans respect him, and he will try to learn. And I said, and then the accent is a little issue because he has worked on that quite diligently, but it was a little stronger in 2012 than it is now. But anyway, Kevin worked with him. He did his homework. He really got into it. He learned television, and he ended up they were a great announcing team. Of course, then later on, Joe Koff said, well, he still got that accent. I don't know if I can understand him. Well, we brought this up, right? But you let the merchandise weasel dictate the hosts of your television program. But anyway, after that, practice and experience, with television and broadcasting, then Nigel has done great. And then finally, when he got a chance to go to a company where really, especially NXT, you can tell they don't have Vince screaming in their ear. They're being produced by professionals who help the announcers rather than browbeat them. And they did a great job. But I've been a fan of Nigel's. I think he's actually going to be probably at the end, he'll be known for his wrestling career as an announcer more as a wrestler when he thought at one point it's all over and I'm done. And I think that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
the first match, Noam. I've only seen it written. I've never seen him. I thought it was Noam Dar. They had to call him Noam. I don't know why that's a first name. I've never heard it before. And he wrestled young Travis Banks. And I just have a few notes. Dar is terribly small and young looking. Banks is small, but looks a little older and tougher. I did notice I like the white ropes that they use. In standard def, that wouldn't have worked. In the old days, on one of Nick Goulas' studio shows, when the interns were in the territory, they'd shoot one of the interns off from one side of the ring to the other, and the whole TV screen would just blur white. It was rougher back in those days. But this match, they had a nice pace. They didn't rush at the start especially. The shit looked nice and precise. They were a little over the top with their counters back and forth, being choreographed, but they did them well. Dar has a little personality. Banks did a nice little soccer kick spot on the apron. They picked up the pace and the bumps as the match went on. I hate that the guys forearm so much and punch so shitty these days, but it's not just these guys, it's all of them. But here was something about this match that was true about almost everything in the night. There was nothing, I'm not going to crucify any of these guys. There are a few things I skipped over we'll get to, but I didn't see any silly, phony, stupid, unfunny comedy or just obviously blatantly phony shit or disrespectful shit to the business or wink, wink, we're not trying. I didn't see any goofs out there that were, had shitty bodies and no tans and looked like they do this on the weekends part-time. This was not the greatest show top to bottom I've ever seen. And a lot of the guys do the same shit and look the same doing it. But everybody was being serious and everybody was trying their best. So nothing on this show, I hate to kill it at start, deserved having, being verbally eviscerated because everybody was trying, some of them just better at it than others. And this match, most of it made sense. It was a nice wrestling match. They picked it up into the finish. The double stomp was a good false finish. The one part that I didn't understand was, I know they're trying to get Dar over, and Banks was trying to do that. But here's the thing. They not only do that flying double stomp where Banks stomped Dar off the top rope, and it got a pop as a false finish. But then they've got the people went, oh, shit, right there if they would have gone. But instead, they start trading forearms. And yes, the people get into the forearm back and forth, but then Banks hits Dar with a forearm that looked like it should have knocked him out. It was good looking. And Dar goes down and the people go, ooh. And then the next thing Banks tries to do, Dar ducks and is running the ropes and on offense 5 seconds later. And then makes a comeback and hits a stiff flying fucking kick of some description. Boom, 1, 2, 3. Why did they put the forearm trade in between? Which it was a good little sequence too, but Dar got him up as high as he was going to with a false finish with that double stomp. So right there, if they'd have both sold a little bit, and then Dar, instead of just going from zero to hero in 5 seconds, had pulled himself up a little bit and just let Dar shoot him off and duck something and hit that fucking kick. Boom. And then he doesn't just blatantly survive everything Banks can do to him and then just beat Banks. But he still did the same thing. He got same finish, same result. I don't know. But it was a fine opening match.
It's too much running. This is the thing that's going to make me sound like as much an old man as anything else I ever say. There's too much running in modern wrestling. Everyone's always running. They get up everywhere, and then they turn their back to the guy and they run, and the other guy chases them, and then the other guy runs past them, and I don't like it. I'm an old man. I don't like it.
But you just have a brain and cognitive thought. I have told several wrestling school classes, I don't know when this started, where if you give a guy a tackle and he doesn't go down or something like that, you turn your back on him when you're only 2 feet away from him, stand there for 5 seconds, and like you're going to do a Kenny Olivier dramatic point to where you're going to run and then run there. And the guy just doesn't grab you by the fucking hair and fucking run your face into a goddamn ring post. Your back is to him.
Yeah.
You always hit the ropes to the right. So if you hit a guy and he doesn't go anywhere, you go and hit the ropes to your fucking right like you're trying to get some more momentum to come back and do it again, but you still keep your eyes on your opponent. Anyway. Why did, before Cesaro's match, a Michael Jackson impersonator interviewed Cesaro? Is that a regular announcer that they have on the program? He looked like Michael fucking Jackson.
I have to admit, I don't know where you got that from. I didn't see him and think he looks like Michael Jackson, but I also have no idea who he is. I've never seen him before, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, anyway, Cesaro was about to say something, and old Ilya Dragunov came up and made a mean face at him, and that was it. So that was a waste of a few seconds there. I'm a huge fan of Claudio Castagnoli, Cesaro. It was one of my biggest disappointments when they decided to go to, at the time was at FCW, take a developmental deal and the Kings of Wrestling, him and Hero, instead of staying in Ring of Honor. Because I thought they were the best heel team in the business. But anyway, huge fan of Cesaro. This fucking Ilya Dragov needs to look more like Nikita Koloff for me to take his shit seriously. He's got the badass Russian music, and he comes down making all the gestures and the faces, and he looked like a fucking middle school kid next to Claudio. Plus he has a very pale and thinly built upper body on top of that. I mean, what did you think?
Well, now you're making me question everything I thought. I mean, he's definitely a smaller guy, and it's apparent when you're in there with Claudio or Cesaro, because he is a bigger guy. Because he's so slim, you probably don't realize just how big he is. But I thought he was all right. I mean, he was a little exaggerated with his facial expressions, but the crowd, it didn't take away from the crowd, so I think that was good. The crowd were into him.
Well, yeah, and I mean, he was trying hard, and he's one of those guys, all these guys look so young. Even Cesaro is the veteran, and what is he, maybe 32 or whatever the fuck? When you went to a wrestling event in days gone by, you had guys on a card wrestling that were 20 and guys that were in their mid-40s and everybody in between. And all these guys, even the ones that are trying to look badass and tough, look like they just got out of fucking college or even high school. And this guy to be an evil dominant Russian or whatever the fuck, I didn't get it. Cesaro at that one point dumped him to the floor. I don't know how that was supposed to go. Do you remember that when he just picked him up and just chucked him over the top rope?
Yeah, I don't know what they were trying to do.
I don't know. The spot of the night was the big swing. I was going to ask
you, do you like that spot in general?
Yes, and I mean, I like it because here's the thing. Of course, they counted too high. Did you notice the people were counting so fast every time he went to the east and west side of the ring was a different number, so it was more like 20 repetitions. But I like it because you can actually really do it to somebody who doesn't really want it. It's show busy, and it's a crowd involvement thing, crowd participation, and they love to count, and it's an impressive display of strength. You have to be an athlete to do it. But the other guy's not cooperating in it, besides keeping his fucking head up, and you don't want to fucking lose the back of your fucking head on that mat, so that's kind of self-preservation anyway. I don't have a problem with it. I don't think it's cartoon.
What about the guy getting it or taking it? I don't know what better way to put it there, but the guy that Cesaro is actually swinging, if you notice, and I've seen this before, they put their hands like over their head, kind of like.
Yes.
Is there any better way to do? Because that was one of the things I was like, that move, and I guess there's not too much you can do. You can't really just wave your arms around. But I don't know, something about that. It's almost like the guy's resigned, like, okay, I give up. I'm just going to be here for a while.
When you think about it this way, I mean, if the speed is going good, you're still up above the mat. But if old Claudio stumbles, or if he starts drooping and you go down a little bit at, what is that, 25, 30 miles an hour, the back of your head is going to scrape across that fucking canvas and you will be scalped from the back to the front. So that's kind of self-preservation. I'm swinging, but I'm holding on to the back of my fucking head. I've seen guys in days gone by, Donnelly O'Jonathan, that was his move, the giant swing.
Yeah.
Where they just keep their hands at their sides. But then a lot of guys got their bell rung with the fucking. So I don't know, but I mean it's in the middle to me of crowd pleasing and actually still legitimate enough that and it's fucking been around wrestling for a while. I don't think it's anything revolutionary.
All right,
it's just me, but yes, I can see where you're going with that. At one point though, I halfway believed that Claudio was stretching this fucking guy, because his mat work was so good and he had it locked in and he was cinching shit in and it looked fucking vicious. I did write, does there have to be a dive in every fucking match? And apparently there does.
Yeah, the answer is yes, apparently.
Yeah, just if nothing else, just don't do it sometimes, just so the other people that do it, the people will see it for the first fucking time. Anyway, the only thing I couldn't understand, Cesaro hit that go to sleep that looked like it put him to sleep. Then a double kick of some description, and Dragov kicks out of both. Then when Dragov Death Valley drivers Cesaro into the buckles and gets the "This is awesome" chant, Dragov does a senton off the top that missed and killed the fucking crowd. And then Cesaro hits the big pop-up uppercut and a big Zabada and wins 1, 2, 3. He was trying to get the guy over by allowing Dragov to survive things before he finally won. But what it did was it went too long and added shit where it didn't have to be. He could have hit either one of the go-to-sleeps or the double kicks or the... because the thing is, after he hit the fucking guy with the go-to-sleep and the double kick, and then the guy comes back with enough power to Death Valley driver Cesaro into the buckle, and then goes up to the top and misses a senton, and people go, They never got him back to where that GTS would have been. That was the best looking thing. He'd done so much in that match. There didn't need to be that, well, I'll kick out of 2 of these things and then I'll drop you with something and then I'll get beat with something. When Cesaro hit him with that fucking go to sleep, he should have just said, fuck it, stay there. This is it. And the place would have blown like crazy. And that just bothers me, that why in these normal matches do these guys have to kick out of multiple things that look really fucking good to come back and do things that don't look as good and lose people? It's in almost every one of these matches. In the old days, when you went into the finish, you went into the finish. It wasn't 7 minutes later the match was over. You're going home. The people are ready. You don't have to go back and forth 27 fucking times. And I understand trying to get a young guy over, even though it's called for you to win the match. But, you know, it would have been fine without slowing him down at the end again. And it makes every match longer. But that's just me. I'd rather and sometimes big show sold out, Charlotte Coliseum, Philly Civic Center, wherever the fuck. We would hit Ricky Morton with the rocket launcher and he would raise his shoulder at the 2.5 count. And the people would explode. And right then, the next immediate thing we did was to get Ricky that tag somehow so Robert could start that comeback because we're going. Because once you've kicked out of the fucking rocket launcher, there's really nothing else we can fucking do. I don't know. Anyway, Adrian Street and Miss Linda were at ringside. I loved the fuck out of that. Linda has not aged in 25 or 30 years. And Adrian, this is off the top of my head, if Adrian is not 80 years old, he can smell it from here.
Oh, yeah, he's got to be a minimum 80, yeah.
And he had that bout with cancer several years ago and got through that and still has that fucking huge chest and that small waist, and he lost the hair, so he shaved it. But he's got the big smile. He can still probably stretch anybody in the fucking locker room. I loved seeing them. That was fucking tremendous. But legitimately, he's got to be 78 because he was in his early 40s when I managed him 37 years ago.
It's crazy that he lived so long in Pensacola, just now moved back in the last year to England.
A lot of guys, when they would move to Pensacola and live there, they would stay there. Well, just who just passed away?
Norman Frederick Charles.
Norman Frederick Charles, another person from over across the pond. Anyway, speaking of across the pond, I wish they'd kept this one. For the UK Tag Team Championship, a triple threat tag team match. It's not just all elite wrestling. They got to have them here too. The teams are Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster, who were announced at a combined weight of 324 pounds. I don't care if it's true. You should never say that out loud. Fuck me. I have literally weighed 45 pounds less than their combined weight as a tag team professional wrestlers. And Flash Morgan Webster had a green striped shirt and suit on and everything. And then the next team was Gallus, which I assume is a UK-centric pronunciation of something, with Mark Coffey and Wolfgang, who I met on the What Culture show over there in 2016. They came out looking like grown men, had fairly cool music. And then the grizzled young veterans of James Drake and Zach Gibson. And fuck, Once again, I'd have loved to have seen a tag match with any two of these three teams. But they start running and just doing shit to each other back and forth. You can't keep track as a first-time viewer, except for the guy in the green stripes. He looked like a clown, but at least I knew where he was all the time. But you can't keep track of who's on whose side and what's going on, especially when there's, just constant motion and nobody stops to fucking let anything register. The grizzled young veterans did some kind of over-the-top rope to the floor backbreaker double team on the smallest guy, Flash Morgan Webster, and got a 2 count. I noticed that Nigel kept saying sports entertainment over and over. And Nigel, please come up with something else, because that was the only thing that you were doing that was killing your credibility when you say those 2 words. And then it's just a buzz killer. Everybody goes back to, shit. Yeah, they're making him say these things because nobody really says that phrase. So they're controlling what he says. It's not natural. It's not organic, just coming from him. This was not nearly as sloppy or as goofy as the AEW 3-ways, but it was a lot of guys doing stuff back and forth and multiple dives. I started zoning out. So I fast forwarded 5 minutes. And the grizzled young veterans hit a suplex and a 450-degree splash on the little fucking guy, and he kicked out at 2. So I fast-forwarded 2 more minutes, and a guy hit a boomerang into a Canadian destroyer and didn't even make a cover on the guy. And then the other guys did the Road Warriors Doomsday device, where one Road Warrior would get the guy on his shoulders in like a chicken fight ride, and the other Road Warrior would come off the top rope with the clothesline, and the guy would take a flip, land on his face on the mat. But this time, the guy with the guy on his shoulders is standing on the floor, and the guy giving the clothesline dove through the ropes. Doomsday device, looked great. Guy took it, holy shit, wasn't the finish. I said at that point, I zoned out for good and left. Sorry, guys, but what the fuck? It's just ridiculous. Constant, multiple finishes and dives and blah, 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 and you can't keep track and nothing means anything. And then once again, they've got a title match in the main event, and thankfully, as we'll get to, but they would have been all horsewhipped if there was a world championship match on a card that they did all that fucking tomfoolery on in the past, because I know that these guys are not over like the world champion or the top challenger, but you've just numbed the people to a bunch of shit for no reason. Speaking of numb, we then come to the last man standing match. Joe Coffey versus the bomber Dave Mastiff, who looks like a young, slightly trimmer Crusher Blackwell. How can 2 guys having a fight, and they tried to make this look like a fight in some cases, follow 3-team 6-man mayhem with everybody flying everywhere? And these guys are grown, adult-looking men. One of them looks like a potato with arms and legs. But they were going to try to have a legitimate fight because it's a last man standing match, and the crowd was dead. And then they got a lucky break and got the people into it and didn't know how to keep them. Coffey took a hell of a fucking shot into the turnbuckles. He got whipped all the way across, corner to corner, and took that turnbuckle like $1 million, and that buckle hook popped right out. I've seen it happen before, but this one was great. Because the turnbuckles hook through a loop, or not a loop, but a goddamn it, I don't know the hardware store terminology, but there is a ring welded onto the turnbuckle or onto the ring post, and the turnbuckle hook goes through that. And when those ropes are tightened, it's especially harder to do with cables, but they use ropes in the WWE, as we've talked about, and that's why another reason why they suck. But it's still even hard when they're tightened up. You have to exert a lot of fucking force to get that hook to pop out of that fucking loop. And he did. And the people, did you hear the people respond to it? Because they could tell that wasn't planned, and they could tell it was a hard buckle that would have jarred the fuck out of you. And then they got into it, and they were starting to watch, and they were using the turnbuckle, and the top rope was off. But then, within a short time, not even minutes, they tried to start having the match they'd planned again. The one guy, Coffey, tried to jump up and do a turnaround cross body off the middle rope while the top rope was still hanging there loose, and he just fell off on his ass. They had a serendipitous occasion where the people were brought into that, and if they'd have just gone, obviously nobody was going to nobody was going to blister them in the back if they cut their match short. If they'd have gone on using the gift that they were given with that loose rope and the turnbuckle hook and done some other serious shit and kept it short and exciting, they could have done something here. But what instead do they go out? Why was there a cue stick at ringside? Was there a pool table at ringside?
I did not see one, no.
A cue stick at ringside, and that's not how you hit somebody. Anybody that's ever been in a fight in a fucking pool room, that's not how you hit somebody with a cue stick. Like Triple H uses the sledgehammer. They were giving gut shots and fucking whatever with a cue stick. There shouldn't be one there anyway. We talked about on the drive-thru, I think, this past weekend, what you can use in wrestling matches and not that looks natural, that should be under or around a ring. Then they dump out a bag of junk that had paint trays, billiard balls, but still there's no table. They pulled a table out, but it wasn't a pool table. A cricket bat. When I saw the cricket bat and all the garbage come out from under the ring, I said, I'm sure probably thumbtacks are next. So I fast forwarded because they'd lost me, and they were at the announce position taking the desk apart so they could ram each other into it. If they want to hurt each other so badly, why are they taking the top off and moving all the shit so there's no sharp corners? And then I fast forwarded some more, and they both fell off the stage through a table, and Coffey beat the count. The last man standing doesn't mean falls count anywhere. They didn't have to do it back there. They could have told an athletic, physical story in the ring without bringing silly gimmicks into it and making it just a regular garbage match that everybody has all the time. So a lot of it I didn't watch. But whereas normally with All Elite Wrestling, I will fast forward through the Japanese schoolgirls, I did not fast forward through Kaylee Ray and Toni Storm. And I'm glad that I did not. What did you think?
I thought it was pretty good. I had not seen too much of Kaylee before. It's my first time, actually. I thought she was great.
This was the second best match on the show to me. Because Toni Storm looks like a fucking superstar. She's got great attributes. She's got a great look. She's got serious facials. She's apparently over with that crowd. They're chanting, fuck her up, Toni, fuck her up. Kylie Ray has a good heel face. She's painfully thin, but the girls don't have to be as big as the guys. It was stiff shit. It looked like a fight. They stomped the shit out of each other. Those I've seen girls in real fights throw punches like that. They don't all throw punches like Dick Murdoch. Those windmills look pretty fucking dangerous. Kaylee Ray is a good heel. She worked her holds well. She got some heat from the people. That Toni Storm threw a hell of a spin kick and a pretty good clothesline. And she did that cool flip over sunset flip powerbomb deal, which I've not seen, at least from ladies before, and had great facials and followed. They did a German off the top. Toni Storm did it, caught her and Germaned her off the top, but which is a bit much once again for women, but there was no cover and kick out. She covered and Ray got her foot on the ropes. So even the girls here are trying, and NXT is doing the best job from what I hear of this, of actually trying to be serious wrestling. But they're not trying to just go out there and do shit for no reason except the three-team match. They still register somewhat and make sense. Toni Storm did a dive. Everybody has to do a dive. And then Kaylee Ray did one and almost killed herself and landed on her fucking head coming off the top rope to the floor. The match was good enough. They didn't need that. That girl could have broke her fucking neck. And they didn't need it because they were having a very good women's grudge match, in my opinion, with especially with a baby face. It was over and looked like something. They did not need the heel to get up on the top turnbuckle and dive off onto the floor onto a 130-pound maybe woman who's not going to be able to catch you like a giant fucking man. And she fucking slipped going down and was going head first anyway. So I'm surprised she wasn't fucking hurt bad. But anyway, then I was figuring Toni Storm was going to be the one to go over, and son of a gun, after all this stuff, boom, they got back in the ring, and finally Kaylee Ray hit Storm with her finish, whatever they call it, and boom, 1, 2, 3. But that's fine, because by gosh, we need a rematch. Toni Storm needs another chance. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and I don't know, I haven't watched WWE regular television in a while. It was nice seeing that. I'm not trying to put anyone down, but it was nice seeing that after some of the stuff on AEW. Although I like the Japanese women wrestlers a little more than you, but still, I thought this was really good and the best women's thing I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to blister the Japanese girls, because there have been some great Japanese girls. They just didn't all look like fucking schoolgirls to me. And also, in a 4.5-hour show, and I got to zip through something, I'm not sitting down and watching the 100-pound Japanese women. I'm sorry. Anyway, now we come to the main event of the evening. I have one thing to say about Walter versus Tyler Bate. Magnifique. What a fucking deal. And they went 45 minutes, and to me, it was shorter than the whole fucking, well, I guess it would be. It was shorter than the whole All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view. But it was shorter than any particular match on the All Elite show, because it was good. And it wasn't the same speed all the way through. They had ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, and they took people on a ride. And the little guy had to struggle, and finally he'd get the advantage, but he couldn't keep it. And the big mean man would put him down again and waltz him across Texas, make him sell like he was going to the electric chair. And then somewhere or another, he'd be overconfident, or he'd make a mistake, or the little guy was just too smart. It was classic big man, little man, pro wrestling psychology. I could have done without the crowd singing. I know that's a fucking UK thing. I don't know what the fuck they were saying or what was going on. But both guys, Tyler Bate is small, but he has a physical charisma, and he looks great like an athlete. And he looks young, but not like a fucking high school kid. And then I've said Walter before, I love this fucking guy. The facials, the look, the entrance music, and the body language, and just the attitude he has. And the chant, Walter is a wanker, right? That was fucking great. But Tyler Bate is strong as fuck. You can tell, even though he looks small and he looks young, you can also tell he's a badass athlete, because he's strong as hell and he can show it. He bridged with Walter on top of him. But at the same time, whenever Tyler Bate would get the flurry going, Walter would just headlock him and shut him down, or just because he was so big. He's got those fucking paws and those long arms. And they built to a spot where finally Tyler barely got him over at a body slam, and the place came unglued. Right? And a simple thing as that, because they built to it properly. And then Walter goes to slam Tyler Bate, and Tyler Bate hangs on like a fucking monkey, and he can't fucking throw him down. There was different shit. All through that match, Walter manhandled the kid, but the kid was always still in it. And that's an art, and Walter knows his shit. I would assume Walter was leading this particular expedition. The buckle bomb into the ring post, I thought, was a little drastic, but they teased a stoppage or teased a count out. If it had been the AEW show, it would have been a spot, and if they'd have done a cover, they'd have kicked out on one. But Walter, he has that way of imposing his physical will on you, like a Gene Kiniski. He looks like a fucking just a big raw bone fuck with those arms, and you can tell he's strong without being a fucking, a muscle bound bodybuilder. His pacing and his timing and the instinct he's got to do shit is excellent. And even when some guys might be tempted to start speeding up or start rushing or whatever, he just walks around the ring and he takes his time and he surveys the people. And that fucking surfboard he gets on, guys, with the long arms and the long legs and just the look, And especially him being so much taller and bigger than Tyler Bate, it looked like those matches where Andre would get that surfboard on a guy. And it would look like he was wrenching the shoulders out of his sockets. And the chops. You know, what the fuck? His hands just have the design to, displace that much oxygen or whatever the fuck when he hits somebody. They're so big, they're like paws. When they would do even a big move, like Tyler Bate one time gave him the flip suplex, blockbuster, whatever, off the apron to the floor, and it looked great, but they both sold it. And they still, if you went back and watched, they weren't coming off the top rope. They were coming off the apron. It's how flat they landed, the noise they made, and the way they sold it. But all through this match, stuff was different. Tyler Bates' last comeback, really, flurry was different. And lots of this stuff, especially Walter, you can tell has his own style, but they did different shit. And finally, that second of when Tyler Bate finally suplexed him, the place exploded again. The only thing I didn't like was when they'd get up on the top rope. I don't mean as far as Walter did a big splash off the top for his size was great. I don't mean when they did stuff over I mean when they both get up on the top rope and it's like they're jockeying for position. Yeah. And one guy's going to superplex the other guy, and the other guy's no. But you can tell they're cooperating because there's no law. The loss of balance would be so easy to cause if somebody was really trying to do something. I don't want them both climbing around up there because that takes me out of the credibility of the moment, especially with Walter. He didn't need to be up there. But the false finishes had the people. That spot where Walter got knocked out, but as Bate fell down, Walter fell backwards on him, and he's so big, Tyler Bate can't get out from under him to cover him. That was fucking phenomenal. Yeah. They kept it going back and forth. Logically, it was good the whole way.
Even like that spot where he would run to the ropes and dive onto Walter, and he would sell his back. He would hold his back as he was trying to run the ropes. Like, that was great. A little thing, but that was great.
But all the little things are what makes it look like it makes sense to your brain, even when you're trying not to. Just the goofy shit and just the repetitive same tempo shit. Finally, just you get numb or it just looks goofy and cooperative. But when they have the pace and the flow and the story and it makes sense to your mind, you have an easier time looking over things that you might see that take you out of it. When Tyler Bate, he Germaned him with a bridge, which was good enough, but then they did the old Flair double bridge spot that Rick always liked to throw in about 45 minutes in. But they did it with Walter that big and that size difference. And then he hit that fucking, what do they call it? The Tiger Driver. Nigel went mental. Like I said, that big splash that Walter did, he hit him with a splash and he kicked out. Then he hit him with a power bomb and he kicked out. Then he hit him with that big lariat 1, 2, 3. Now that's the way to get somebody over in losing. Because yes, he hit him with a big splash and he kicked out. And yes, he hit him with a good looking power bomb and he kicked out. But he didn't kick out of those things and then come back and do offensive shit to Walter. And then Walter had to stop him down again and hit something. It was, bam, I hit you with this, couldn't get it. Bam, I hit you with this, couldn't get it. You motherfucker, that lariat, boom, it was too much. But how tough can this kid be to take all that? That's the way you left the people thinking. This was the right way to do it. and honestly, as good as, and I don't watch a lot of wrestling, but as good as I thought Cody and Dustin was as a bloody grudge match exhibition of pro wrestling, this was as good an athletic exhibition of a pro wrestling contest as I've seen in a long time.
I thought this is the best match I've seen at least all year, maybe in a few years. And, you know, the one compliment I can give them, because we've talked so much lately about shows running long and, you know, on the AEW show, the show ran long, but every match was over 20 minutes, or at least felt like it. This match kept going, and the longer it went, the more I got into it.
Yeah. Because that's what they're trying for, but they don't understand. When everybody's, oh, we'll go 30 minutes. Well, just automatically going 30 minutes doesn't mean it's going to be a classic. Doesn't mean it's going to be great. You have to go 30 minutes or 40 minutes where the people are more excited and more into it as it goes on. And that means that they can't see the same shit, same style of shit, same speed of shit, same tempo of shit, same flavor of shit over and over, done back and forth endlessly for 40 minutes. There needs to be the peaks and valleys and the ebbs and flows and the little fucking escape in the nick of time and the chance to get respite and the story and the fucking, it needs to unfold and get more people gradually more and more gripped instead of just, we're going to do all this shit and they're going to go holy shit all over the place.
And you could say so much about the fans and the singing. Like you said, that's a local thing over there, although I'm sure they'll start doing it here in America anytime now because they see it over there.
Are you kidding? This bunch of fucking non-tune carrying bunch of American fucks over here could never pull off a group sing like that with the same words and the same tempo just on the fly. You're out of your mind. Anyway, go ahead.
But what was cool is, I'm assuming all of these fans know that wrestling's a work. And they're all there to watch wrestling, but they're not invested in it to the point where they're going to jump the rail and attack someone if their favorite guy loses. With that said, they wanted Tyler Bate to win. They were cheering for Tyler Bate that whole match. They really wanted him to win, and that emotion just lent so much to the match. And it was perfect. The ending was perfect. The match was perfect. Excellent. Excellent all the way around. Just excellent.
And Walter's such a great heel because look at him.
Fantastic.
Look at that fucking face, and he's such a big bully, and he's so condescending.
And he would have been a great heel in any era. He would have fit in.
Yeah.
In the 70s, in the 60s, he would have fit in.
Oh, I can see it in any territory. He would have been a star in any territory at any point in time. Anyway, you know what we need to do now, don't you?
I don't know. Place bets on football games.
No, well, we need to do that at MyBookie, but we need to finish the show because nobody's listening by this point because I've said a bunch of good stuff about people and praised something, and nobody's going to listen to that.
No, that's not how it works. They listen, but they don't hear the positive stuff.
So it's not the listening that needs help, but it's the hearing of the stuff. Okay. Well, see, we're just talking to ourselves anyway right now because we're being so effusive in our praise. But no, it wasn't the greatest show I've ever seen. There was a couple matches I fast-forwarded through because I didn't just want to see more of the same old shit. But for the ladies' match, especially Walter and Tyler Bate, and even and Cesaro did a fucking great job. So everybody was trying. Everybody was trying to be serious. That goes a long way with me.
So coming out of this, obviously, this was NXT UK. It's going to be the regular NXT head-to-head with AEW. So it's a little bit of a different product, although the same kind of feel, I would assume, although shot in America, a little bit different crowd. But going into it now, having watched a recent NXT show, having watched so much AEW, what are you anticipating now going into Wednesday nights?
Apparently having to change our recording day to be topical because we usually record on Wednesdays and we'll be a week behind. So we may have to rethink our strategy.
I hadn't thought of that until now. Yeah, you're right.
But also we're going to keep reporting on this war to settle the score until either we just can't do the homework anymore or one side wins. But we won't do it every week. We'll obviously have some other fine programming, but we'll keep an eye on all these perpetrators. In the meantime, and in between time, that's all the good things I've got to say about everybody. And to the people that Stephen P. New is currently throwing out of work, don't fuck with me. Just don't fuck with me. Everything will be fine. Just know your role. And as a great man once said, shut your pie hole. Anyway, in parting, we want to wish you love, peace, and soul, and we'll be back next week to piss off somebody else. Until then, thank you. Fuck you. Don't buy that T-shirt. Bye-bye, everybody.